Okay, so I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 2005, but I have not played it alone. I have played it with an elephant in my room, and this elephant is telling me that I have not watched any of the movies. But why would I do such a thing, you ask? Well, here's the thing. When you're a fan of a movie, series or anime, if there's a game that comes out from one of the things you like, you might be a tiny little bit biased towards it. Just a tiny bit. Like, hey, there's not a lot of JoJo games out there, so when one comes out, I'll take anything. Sure, give me that JoJo Battle Royale game, why not? One day I'll be able to play you. So I want to have a different perspective. Are the games good in a void, or are they only good in space? Would someone who is not a fan enjoy them? Even more so, is the story explained well enough so that someone who has not seen the movies could even understand? Or would I just be staring at the screen going, who is this guy? Why does he want to go there? And why does he have a bad feeling about it? Now, just like the previous game, I will split this into 3 categories: gameplay, story, and multiplayer. And if you haven't seen the previous video, don't worry. I'll spoil you right now by saying the story has nothing to do with that. Technically. Well, in a way it does, but I'll get to that in a bit. There will be comparisons made between the 2 games though, because interestingly enough, I don't feel that there is an obvious winner for which game is the best. So let's begin with the gameplay. The core of the gameplay remained quite similar. In the first one, there was a lot of emphasis on making the maps you play feel like a Battlefront, and in this one, they feel like a Battlefront 2. The troops you can play as remained quite similar as well. Standard rifle guy, standard shotgun guy, sniper rifle guy, but there are new troops here and there, like the Junkrat of the Star Wars universe just carrying a portable mortar. There are a lot more maps in this game though, or at least that's what it feels like. And I think they were able to achieve this by using a secret technique that was later passed down to FIFA games, which is reusing assets. Because what they do is they use some of the maps that were used in the previous game, but hey, they can't just build them from scratch every time. They are free to use them again. In fact, they ought to. One of my favorite reused maps is the Naboo planet. It's literally the same with a small change. It's nighttime. And I don't know why, but it makes it feel so different. I love the atmosphere more in the nighttime. In fact, I think it kind of triggered a memory. So back in the day, I used to play Counter-Strike 1.6 instead of this game. One of the maps there was called CS Italy, and it was one of my favorites simply due to a small radio on the map playing a song on repeat. But later on I discovered that someone recreated the map with just a small twist. They made it look like it's night, and suddenly the whole atmosphere changed. Honestly, now that I think about it, more games should do this related to maps in multiplayer games. If MMOs can have day and night cycles, why should other games not have that? And it's not just the maps that are different though. This is one part where Battlefront 2 is much better than the first one. The objectives.
Nice work. The ATTE has been reactivated. The CIS offensive is being mounted from the fungal tree to the south.
Because in the first one, literally all maps are capture the enemy bases. In this one though, in the single player campaign, you'd have a lot more to do. Sometimes you'd have to destroy the enemy shields, other times you'd have to rescue a datapad and return it to your base, and other times you'd just have to defend the base that you just captured for a certain amount of time. But wait, that's not all. This time you've got a few missions where the battle doesn't even happen on a planet, but in space. A whole level dedicated to spaceship battles. I cannot remember any game that I've played so far that had so much emphasis on the space battles. And unlike the previous game, because this is in space, I didn't constantly run into things and explode immediately after going into a spaceship. Yeah, well, not constantly, okay? These levels were quite fun, but I'm wondering if due to them wanting to have these levels as a focus for battles in the air, they cut down on other things. Because here's the thing. Whilst these levels are amazing, the air battles on normal maps felt almost non-existent. I want your opinion guys, because maybe I'm alone into thinking that, but the battles in the first game, I would say felt a lot more chaotic and in turn a lot cooler. You as a random trooper fighting to gain control over the land as there is a massive battle happening in the air over your head. That doesn't seem to exist in this game, it's quite odd. And speaking of battles, this is not a complaint, but I noticed that the single-player campaign felt a lot easier in this game. In the first one, I had so many maps where I barely won after struggling so much, but in this one, I was able to blitz through to get to the enemy base, literally running past tens of enemies that are ignoring me and capture their base while they continue ignoring me for the most part. The only time I had an issue in this one was the last level on the hot planet, but that was just because I refused to try to get into an AT-AT walker for the first few tries and the game really wanted me to do it. As a reward for finally doing it, the game made the screen look really weird for the rest of the level. Thanks, game. But all this does not mean that the first game has better gameplay necessarily. Because in this one, the heroes, or villains that pop up on the map, are not just NPCs. In this one, they actually allow you to play as them, and oh boy, it's so fun. They've definitely made them feel special. You can feel how much more powerful they are compared to the normal troops. They literally plow through hordes of enemies without breaking a sweat. And it's not just with a normal lightsaber attack either. Heroes and villains have different abilities. Some have lightsaber throws, some have force pulls, force push, and so on. And I love that they made them so overpowered. They have to be. I don't care about balance, this is single player. I will care about the nightmare that is balancing them when it gets to the multiplayer, because I can't imagine how they would work in a multiplayer game. What surprised me the most regarding these heroes though wasn't how overpowered they are, but how little they matter to the story. So let's talk about the story. This time, it actually exists. And unlike the previous Star Wars games I've played, it is not from the perspective of a hero. It's not even from a villain's perspective. It is from a random NPC perspective. Because for this game, they decided to push the feeling of just being a cog in the war machine to the limit.
Get behind the shield and take out the generator.
Now you're not only just a random soldier, but the story itself is from that perspective.
In the waning months of the Clone Wars, the 501st faced missions critical to the agenda of Chancellor Palpatine.
The story of this game is the story of the Star Wars movies, but told from a different perspective. From the perspective of the 501 Legion. Now, I don't know if this 501 Legion is canon to the Star Wars universe, but I definitely don't mind if it's not. This 501 Legion is an elite division of clone troopers created by Chancellor Palpatine with their first mission starting during the Clone Wars, I think? Here's the thing, the timeline of this game kind of confuses me. So it goes through the story of the movies, and I think it starts in the prequels because at one stage you have Anakin Skywalker without one arm destroying the Jedi rebels on their home planet. Regardless, the story seems to be told from the perspective of a commander in the 501 Legion retelling what happened in their battles.
When the Death Star was destroyed, about half of the 501st Legion was still in the hangar getting into their ships. Of those who made it out, another third were caught in the explosion. I'd fought with some of those men for over 20 years.
But this is no random commander. No. This guy? This guy is Temuera Morrison. Hey, I didn't know Star Wars had Kiwis in it. Allow me to go on a tangent here for a minute. The accent was instantly recognizable as a Kiwi accent, so I looked up who voiced this commander and I saw it's him. So then I looked into the movies he played and I found out so many. He played in Aquaman, Moana, the recent Chief of War that depicts the story of Goku's most iconic move, and Star Wars Attack of the Clones? Hold on, this guy actually played in the Star Wars movies? That is so interesting. Who did he play? Jango Fett? Wait, does that mean the commander who speaks in the cutscenes is actually Jango Fett? No, that doesn't make any sense. Jango Fett was killed, so that wouldn't be possible, I think. I need someone to help me out on this in the comments. Anyway, the story is genuinely interesting, even if it's just small blurry cutscenes at the start and end of each level. In no small part due to the amazing voice acting from Temuera, Ka-Pai. But it's so interesting seeing how your average troops felt during these massive battles.
We all knew what was about to happen, what we're about to do. Did we have any doubts? Any private traitorous thoughts? Perhaps, but no one said a word. Not on the flight to Coruscant, not when Order 66 came down, and not when we marched into the Jedi Temple. Not a word.
With them starting off as just crushing some small rebellions, to actively deceiving the Jedis on what the missions are about, to then outright just killing all the Jedis because they were ordered to do it. I'm sure Milgram and Zimbardo would have more to say about this. Stanford... Now, Coruscant jail experiment. As the story progresses and moves to the original trilogy, this legion gets promoted to be Darth Vader's personal elite troops. Apparently called Vader's Fist? Singular Fist? He'd get another legion if it still had the other hand, I'm sure. I was hooked in the story. I found things that I didn't know regarding Star Wars, which is quite rare. Like how the attack on the Jedi planet was commenced using the Order 66, or how Naboo was the home planet of the Emperor. But it also left me a bit confused. In one of the cutscenes after defeating the Jedis of the Temple, the narrator says how with that defeat, the era of the Old Republic is officially over, and I don't quite understand that.
Our presence let the galaxy know that the days of the Old Republic were well and truly over.
So I thought the Old Republic was literally that, an Old Republic. I always associated the Old Republic with thousands of years prior to the movies, when the Knights of the Old Republic games happened. I never thought that the Old Republic lasted basically until the end of the prequel movies. Unless I misunderstood this, in which case I'm sure someone will correct me. This story seems to end with the Battle of Hoth, which is also quite interesting to me. From what I remember from the LEGO games, that would have not been the final battle. We barely just got the plans for the second big planet weapon. Oh, Death Star, that was the name. So I find it weird that the story just ends there. It's an odd choice. Maybe the Legion 501 was exterminated on the Hoth battle? I wouldn't imagine so, because that battle was won by Vader, wasn't it? Anyway, all in all, even though the story was not flashy and was quite short, I found it amazing to experience the events from that perspective. Definitely way better than the non-existent story in the first game. So with the single player campaign done, let's talk about multiplayer. Given how the multiplayer aspect ended up being in the first game, I was quite hopeful about this one. I thought to myself, well, no one is playing the first one because they are too busy playing the second game. Unfortunately, that is not quite right. Now, I did manage to get into some multiplayer games and fight against some real people, so that was cool, but there weren't too many servers. I first joined the server mid-battle on Naboo, and that had roughly 6 people. The experience was a bit odd. For some reason, when the players were shooting, they looked like they were shooting in the sky. I don't know what's up with that. But even more odd was how shooting felt. Everyone from the enemy team seemed to move in a very choppy way. I don't know if it was my internet, their internet, or the host of the server, but it made it quite hard to actually shoot someone. The second round I played from the start, and it had a different objective: capture the flag. And I'll be honest, it wasn't an overwhelming experience. In fact, I was quite whelmed. It did feel nice playing against real people, but there were 2 major things missing. First one was the amount of players. I think these sorts of games feel much better when the servers are full. That's when it feels like a battlefield. But in this scenario, I just ended up shooting at bots with some players just popping up from time to time. The second issue was that after playing a while, I realized there were no champions. I wanted to see how playing the heroes felt in multiplayer. And I think it's just that the type of server I joined did not allow heroes, so I looked for another server and found one that allows them. But this had an issue too. It only allowed them. There were no normal troops on the map, just the heroes and villains battling each other. And as cool as it felt to plow through normal enemies as a special character, battling against another special character did not feel the same. I didn't feel like there was any skill expression. I just roamed the map until I found someone else and spammed my lightsaber throw and lightsaber attack and hope for the best. Survive, rinse and repeat until you die. Furthermore, the movements of the heroes felt really clunky. It was weird, whenever I jumped, the moment I landed, the camera would just freeze for a few seconds and I couldn't even look around anymore. Now, I'm not saying that this is the overall experience, but unfortunately, there were no other servers I could join to try out a true experience. Even without that true experience, I would say that for this game, you definitely don't need to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy it. You might not fully understand the story, I sure missed a lot of aspects, but you don't really need them. The main aspect of the game, just like the previous one, is just the massive battles. I don't know if nowadays I'd be able to recommend this game though, especially due to the servers being basically empty. At this point, I wonder if everyone just moved on to the new remakes of the games. Maybe I should give these a try at one point. With that being said, I think that'll be all for this video. As I said earlier, it's not really a clear-cut winner of which game is the best. Sure, the second one improved on basically every aspect of the game, but in the process, it made it feel different. It did not feel as grounded as the first one. That one felt more accurate to a battlefield simulator. But I did enjoy this one a lot, especially the story. That aspect surprised me. Let's see if I can find another game that surprises me with the story. Let me know in the comments what you think. And whilst you're there, I challenge you to force push that subscribe button if you enjoyed this video. It's a good way to test if you can tap into the Force. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!